Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to my first reading of Temple Dancer, a little bit from Temple Dancer. And I'd love to know who's out there and where you're from. So just type in anything that you'd like to say. Hello, hello. And I want to thank, there's a ton of people I need to thank because they're in the acknowledgments. What I want to thank first and foremost is Mother India, because all of the practices that have healed me, that have brought me to this place of having written this book and my other books, come from Mother India. The yoga practices, the pranayama, I was a meditator for many years and very depressed. And when I learned at Kripalu Center, yoga with pranayama and movement, along with meditation, that's really what healed me. So thank you, Mother India. It's also the source, the cultural source, the richness of the Devadasi culture, which was 1,500 years of beautiful sacred temple dance amongst auspicious women who were so well trained. That ended in 1947, and the Madras Council ended all of that. But I wanted to honor that tradition, that sacred tradition that lasted for 1,500 years. And Kripalu was the reason I got to India, because I did a training in a little village in Kayarvarohan, so I'm very grateful to Kripalu. I'm also very grateful to Yogaville, which has become my spiritual home. And the scenes in 2016 are set when Wendy reads what she thinks is a Devadasi or temple dancer's diary. She's at Yogaville on spiritual retreat. The long-lost diary has shown up in her inbox, and she reads it on retreat at Yogaville. So before I begin, I want to also do a shout out to the artist who designed this cover. Actually, she didn't design it, this is her painting. Her painting, Rosanna Marmont's painting, is on the cover of Temple Dancer. And it's poured copper, fired on canvas. And that's why I was stunned when I first saw it. And I said, that's got to be on the cover, because this novel begins and ends in fire. And there's lots of fire and passion in between the first and the last page. So thank you so much, Rosanna Marmont. And I want to, this that I'm going to read from is actually called an ARC, an advanced reader's copy. So it's not actually available yet, but if you pre-order it, you won't be charged until it's available. And pre-ordering really helps, because apparently it ups your Amazon ranking, and that shines a light on the book so that more reviews will come. I've had a lot of wonderful advanced praise, and so far just one neutral review that from somebody I didn't know was a really good one. But that's why I'm doing, asking you hope things. Thank you for those of you who've already pre-ordered, and I would love it if you could pre-order. The information, I think, is up there on Amazon, or you can just Google me. Okay, so I just want to say one more thing about the beginning of this novel, and that is when I was in India the second time in 1994, I saw a picture of a young 7 or 8 year old girl who was a beady roller, and she had been dedicated to the goddess Yamama, which means she was dedicated to the temple dancer, or Devadasi. So Devadasi's temple dancers have been outlawed since 1947. So what that meant was a life of prostitution. And when I saw her picture, I wept. And it made me want to write about the culture before it was decimated, when it was a sacred, auspicious culture. And so that's sort of the seed of Temple Dancer, those eyes of Rohini. So I'm dedicating this reading to Bindu MJ Delecta, my spiritual friend, who's no longer with us. But she and I traveled often together through India and other places, and also to the beloved memory of Louise Marr, my next door neighbor, who was my first guru of love. She taught me what it meant to really feel and be seen unconditionally. So I'm going to read just a couple of pages, just a one-page prologue, and then a couple pages from chapter 1. So, pardon me. So prologue, 1947, India. I am running. It is dark in this place, and I do not know my way. I climb up through the brush. Suddenly, the prickly scrub where the path ends catches my sari, a cow path only. I push and pull, and it will not let go. Where am I? Is this a dream? I struggle to free the charred remains. The hem, once gold, now blackened and crumbling. My sari is caught like the breath in my throat. I rip and tear. The shredding sound tells me I am free. A tangle of fabric stays in the bush. I am running through the cool night. The heat is in me still. Veronima, can you forgive me? I run from you in all we have known. On this mountainside, little fires below and above spit into the night. Is that my cart flaming below? I reach for her bangles and they are gone. Around my neck, the pouch, the key, the gold, all are gone. Only the gold of the flames. I burn, I run. Lord Shiva, let me awaken from this dream. There is a flash of silver like starlight on water. Trees throw their branches screaming, and in my heart is the cry of Veronima up the stairs, singing her love chant. I am running toward the river. There is no more breath. May I wake up in my Amma's arms. Chapter 1, 1997. At 7 a.m. on the first day of the year, Wendy Rabin boarded a train in Coimbatore, India, traveling east from the lush Nilgiri foothills to Chennai, along an ever more arid route toward the Bay of Bengal. She hadn't purchased her ticket in advance, so after a harrowing bus ride 7,000 feet down a ribbon of single-lane highway from Uti, she arrived at the station to find that only fourth-class seats remained. It would be a long journey. The ladies' car was full, and she was directed to a car crowded with men pressed together on worn wooden seats. For the first time in her life, she felt gawky and tall as she walked to the only seat left beside a woman, a wedge of bench by a window. The familiar view, she reminded herself, would be no different from this fourth-class window than the one from the luxury coach she had booked last time. She murmured a low apology to the elderly woman in the aisle seat, who appeared to be sleeping, and took her place, stowing her backpack beneath the seat and placing her water bottle and notebook in a small space between them. The old woman's dark face was etched around the eyes and the corners of her mouth. There were swaths of white and pink in the cheek of her complexion, but the skin on her cheeks and forehead was taut and youthful. Even in this heat, beneath her saffron sari, the woman wore flesh-colored sleeves, a kind of undergarment that covered her neck, and her hands were covered in flesh-colored gloves. It was clear that she had been a beauty. There was a noble radiance in her face. The rest of her small frame seemed as insubstantial as cobwebs. Yet Wendy had distinctly felt the woman's bony knee as she'd climbed over the curve of her to claim the seat. The woman's only jewelry was a small gold stud in her left nostril. Smeared across her brow was vibhuti ash from a recent purification ritual. Wendy's attention shifted to the aisle. A young, bare-chested man was coming down the aisle with a tray of snacks. His white muslin dhoti draped between his legs and hung from his hips. Another man, older and slighter, followed him, selling coconuts, punctured by straws. She bought a wax paper sack filled with idlis, grainy white patties that reminded her of the taste of her Tennessee grandmother's grits. As she reached across to receive her change, the woman's mottled eyelids raised, and for a moment, before she closed them again, Wendy glimpsed her eyes. It was hard to describe the quality of her look, although she could name the effect it had on her. Satisfaction, or something deeper. Not quite fulfillment, but a soothing at her core. It was curious at the time, but she would understand it later. It wasn't a personal look, not an I love you, but rather, I see you and know you are lovable. Like the look her beloved neighbor, Norma, had given her when Wendy sat retelling her school day at Norma's kitchen table. It was the direct look that despite the thousands of miles she had traveled, Guru Nityananda had denied her. In that moment on the train, Wendy felt tears brimming on the edges of her lower lids, and then they escaped and her body heaved silently. She wasn't thinking of the pummeling loss she felt now that this last miserable year of divorce proceedings was over, or the unfairness of resigning from the job she loved, or what her life would look like when she returned to Boston. Nor in that moment was she grieving the damaged relationship with Guru Nityananda, or any of her damaged relationships, her husband Aaron, her daughter Becky, Cal. It was simply the fragile play of opposites in the woman's face, beauty and its temporality, that had drawn tears. In the instant the old woman's eyes met hers, Wendy had known that there was not a thing she could keep from leaving. Not her lover, nor her child, nor her aging parents, nor her body's good health and its newfound power to twist into yoga asanas requiring strength and flexibility. A week after her divorce decree was entered into the public record in the state of Massachusetts, and 10-year-old Becky was out of the tsunami of her grief, safely, Wendy thought, with her best friend Linny Stein at ski camp in the Berkshires. Wendy received an email from a fellow Gurukula student. Guru Nityananda had suffered a second heart attack. Guruji, Nitya, Nityananda. Ananda means bliss. Nitya means eternal. How she felt when she first met him, that yes, a palpitation in her heart. Here is my teacher, finally. But no had come next. Now, when she considered his name, there was a clutch at her heart, and then a breath, an opening. Memory was like that. Remembered moments when the heart flooded, unbidden, like morning light, and then the terrible slam of the heart when the pounding against the door of the beloved was ignored. On her second trip to India, when she was 21, Nitya did not respond. Nityananda, her Guruji, had ignored her, shunned her, and sent her home. And now at 40, she had come back to sit with her dying guru. So that's the beginning. There's a lot more of the train ride. We learn a little bit about the Devadasis from Saraswati, who speaks to her on the train. And then there's some mysterious book left that may be her diary and may not. So I hope you'll pre-order. Thank you so much for even being here with me. And I would just love to continue a dialogue. I know that on my behalf, Liz Meredith Payne has been sending gratitude and love and thanks. And so I'd like to individually connect with you. And this is a very special day. So after this reading, I'm going to change and go on a bike ride, okay? So I will check in later with all the messages, and I hope to respond to any questions or comments later. So leave your questions, your comments. Thank you so much. Stay well. Namaste.